Well, joining me now from his farm in Dayber in Queensland is Defence Minister Peter Dutton. Mr Dutton, thanks for joining me.
Morning, Andrew.
I will get to the matters of defence and China and the Solomons shortly, but I wanted to start with a question on the economy because it's so front and centre of the Liberal campaign. And my question is, can you really argue you are in such a strong position on the economy when we have nearly $1 trillion debt, inflation taking off and interest rates on the way up?
Andrew, at the start of COVID, I remember speaking to a friend of mine who had a business of about 250 staff, and they were labourers. They faced the prospect of going into administration and all of those jobs being lost. We saved 700,000 jobs through the decisions we made around JobKeeper, the other economic stimulus, and confidence remained in the economy. If confidence had been dashed, you would have seen small businesses like that with fire sales of assets, including their own homes. So instead of seeing the economic remarkable story that we've experienced, frankly, over the course of the last couple of years, the biggest shock to the economy since the Great Depression, we've seen an unemployment rate of 4%. It was projected to be 15%. We had situations, Andrew, where it was explained to us in the National Security Committee that we would have to set up morgues adjacent to major public hospitals because tens of thousands of people would have died. So yes, it's cost money to take us through that and to deal with the reality of the recovery and the cost of the response. I mean, ventilators. We couldn't source ventilators around the world. We were able to produce them by sending the army into a factory here in Australia. We were running out of raw materials for face masks. So all of that comes at a cost. But what I'd say is that even with all of that, Labor is still proposing an $80 billion additional spend, and it would go on. I mean, you know that Labor always spends more money when they're in government. That's why they tax more, because they've got a spending problem.
And I've seen the tax guarantee of the Prime Minister today. But just wanted to ask about what you said about low unemployment. Isn't that just a function of closing the international borders and pouring $314 billion into the economy?
No, it's a function of a couple of things. I mean, firstly, when you look at the rebound of the economy, and that's been supported through the support that we've put into the economy, you're right, in terms of the stimulus, but it's also because confidence has remained. There's a huge building boom that's taken place. People are renovating whilst they're at home over the course of COVID. They've added value to their assets. They've paid down credit card debt. They've paid down debt. So they're willing to spend more, which means more jobs in the economy. And yes, there's a function related to migration, and where we initially closed the border with China, which is what saved our country, in my judgment, from the worst of COVID. It was criticised by the Labor Party at the time, but it was the right thing to do. And we're gradually reopening the borders in a responsible way over the course of the last few months, and now into a position where we do want more people to come back, because it doesn't matter what sector you're speaking to across the economy, people do have shortages, they do want labour, and part of that, the success story, the balance that we've got since the Howard days of bringing in skilled migration has been an underpinning of the economy.
Sure. Do you expect a rate rise in May?
I think if you look at what's happening in the United States at the moment, where inflation's at 7%, similar story in parts of Europe, I think we need to really be realistic about the economic risks on the horizon, and that's why there's only one side of politics that can deal with whatever is coming next in the economy, whatever shock and difficulty is coming next. Scott Morrison, the Liberals and Nationals will be able to deal with it. And if there's a rate rise, I mean, that's an issue for the Reserve Bank Governor, but we've put in place settings that don't put pressure on interest rates, and yet Labor always does when they jack up debt.